What's going on, Next Year Nation? We have a very, very special guest here today on episode 2 of the Forever Next Year podcast. I want to welcome in Jonny Lazarus. Jonny, thanks for joining the pod today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Justin. I think there's no more appropriate name for a New York sports show. So excited to do this.
There you go. Well, why don't we start with an introduction? I know this is the first time you and I are kind of formally meeting here. So why don't you tell me a little bit about, your background in sports and how you really got in the hockey scene? And, I think I saw online you played collegiately. So if you could speak to a little bit about, your experiences as a hockey player and how you got into this media scene, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, hockey's like really been my whole life, going back to when I was, 5 years old. I think was the first time I really stepped on the ice. It's funny, my sister's 5 years older than me, and she had this like pair of Barbie rollerblades that I used to throw on in our basement and wheel around.
Yeah.
But my family like never played hockey, so I don't know like where I really picked it up from. My dad watched a lot of Knicks and MSG would be on, and I think maybe just one day I watched a Ranger game and I was like, wow, that looks cool. I'd love to do that. But yeah, like hockey wasn't something that was like handed down to me or passed on to me. It was kind of just like a natural love, which I feel like is pretty rare, right?
Yeah.
I feel like most hockey players, like usually they have a parent who have played or a brother or something like that. But for me, it was really just my own self-interest. So ever since I can remember, it was all hockey, and it's all I ever wanted to do was be a part of the game, be in the NHL, whether it was a player, like a coach, media, obviously, as I got older. So when I, saw my career kind of coming to an end in college, I knew I didn't really want to go on and play in like, a minor league that, wouldn't really do me much. So I transitioned to media a little bit, and I was like, what's the best way for me to get to the NHL? Obviously, I'm not good enough. So media and how social media was growing at the time, this was like 2018, 2019. It felt like this was the best route for me. And I just kind of followed that. And, it's been a dream pretty much ever since. There's been some hard nights, but it's great to truly like wake up and love what you do every day.
Yeah, I guess tell me a little bit about that decision that you made. Like, when did you realize that, okay, going to the NHL, right now is probably not the path, but, did you have a mentor? Did you talk to a friend that kind of made you or it was just you woke up one day and said, all right, I'm just going to do this media thing?
Well, what made me realize I'm not going to the NHL is my actual play. But
pretty good to be in playing collegiate level though. So
I will say
more credit.
I will say, Justin, my freshman year, I got off to like such a good start. I think I had like 6 points in our first 5 games, and it was like, Jonny Lazarus is like 6th among freshmen in scoring, and I was like, holy shit, like maybe I'm good, Like I actually remember, so my neighbor when I was like in high school, I'm not sure if you know the name Matt Karkner. He used to play for the Islanders, play in the NHL for a bit, play for the Ottawa Senators, and at the time he was coaching for the Bridgeport Sound Tigers in the AHL. So he had actually played for my head coach at UMass, Greg Carville, when he was on Ottawa. So I like reached out to him. We were having a conversation, and I was hoping to like get an invite to the Islanders development camp. Never did. But like for my first 2 months or 3 months, I was like, wow, like maybe I could go to the NHL. Like, I have 4 years to get as good as I possibly can at hockey. Like, this isn't really so unrealistic. And fast forward to sophomore year, I got scratched like 13 out of the first 15 games. I transferred and I hated hockey. So took a real quick turn. But yeah,
well, that's how it happens. I'm sure though, throughout your career as a hockey player, or your time as an athlete, you learned a lot of valuable lessons, through your team, and maybe you had a bad loss or you had a really exciting season where you won it all. Can you speak to maybe one of those moments from your collegiate time playing or in high school or growing up where you something that sticks with you? Maybe it was a hard loss or a hard win or a game-winning goal. I mean, is there any moment that sticks out to you?
Yeah, there's one. And it's weird because my second year of junior hockey, I was playing in the North American League. The playoff style was interesting. It was best of three, best of three, best of three, and then one championship game, just one winner take all game. So my team had gone, I guess it was maybe four best of threes. We were 8-0 going into that championship game. We hadn't lost a game in the playoffs, and then we got shut out. The only time all year we got shut out in the championship game. But in the locker room, we were devastated, obviously, but that team was like the closest team I've ever been on, and it almost felt like we won. Like it didn't even matter. Like it sucked, and we wanted to enjoy it, but like after we sat in the locker room for like an hour and like let it sit, we went back to like a teammate's house who lived in Minnesota, and we just like hung out and like still bonded as if the party was less fun, but like the bond was still there. And that was when I truly understood like what being on a strong, good, like mentally tough team was.
Yeah.
Because I knew like any guy in that room, like just that's something we're all going to remember forever,
Absolutely. I think that's so interesting that you bring up that this moment was a loss. Typically it's like you think of the best moments as you always have to win it all. And I think that the whole premise behind Forever Next Year is that, win or lose, there's always you could celebrate that kind of camaraderie of just being together and being sticking true to yourself and keeping form to whatever it is. And for you guys, it was you had a great season, but it just things didn't come together in the end. But you had these relationships and friendships. So when the scoreboard hit zero, what zeroed out, it was you guys had each other's friendships to kind of fall back on. And I think that's super remarkable. And that's exactly kind of what I'm really trying to build with the brand here.
Yeah. I mean, it's professional sports are different. I mean, I guess not so different, but like, growing up, like youth sports, junior hockey, whatever it is, like, I feel like every year teams are constantly changing, like in juniors, you got guys who leave to go to college. You got guys who move on and in pro, I guess, I never played pro, but like, every year you might have the same team to run it back with. So I think the hardest part about that specific moment is like knowing that locker room is never going to be together again. And I think, sometimes that hits teams in pro, but like this year in particular, you look at the Panthers, like they had guys like Ekblad and Bennett, Marchand, guys who needed to sign free agency contracts, and they all stayed. Like that's so rare, but they found a way to do it. And, I think that's what made that group that much more special too.
Absolutely. Now in your time now in being around a lot of professional athletes, I'm sure that you've learned a lot hearing from certain ones, and maybe there are other ones that you didn't learn so much from. But from your experiences to this day, is there any athlete or moment where you were interviewing a player and something that they said really stuck with you, or there was a game where it was just you felt the vibe in the locker room was just something that you always remember?
Yeah, Jonathan Quick, 2024 playoff run. The Rangers were up 3-0 in the series. They lost game 4 and game 5, and they were getting ready for game 6.
Yeah.
I did a one-on-one interview with Jonathan Quick, just me and him, and I was definitely nervous for that too. Just because Jonathan Quick's someone I watched my whole life growing up, whatever. But I wanted to talk to him specifically because he was on the Kings team that had come back from down 3-0 to win. So he knew what the other side was feeling in Carolina. And, basically his whole message was like playoff series, the momentum, while fans think it goes from game to game, it doesn't. Each game is its own 60 minutes. And, I was saying, oh my God, they just lost 2 games in a row. They're going back to Carolina. Like they are screwed. This is done.
Right.
Done.
Yeah.
I was like, this is going to be the worst loss in the history of the New York Rangers. Like, I'm going to be so heartbroken. This great year is about to be fucking destroyed. Sorry, I didn't mean to curse.
No, you're good. All good.
And he just like knocked that right out of my brain.
Yeah.
And even when the Rangers in that game, I think they were down 3-1 going into the third. That's when Kreider had that hat trick. It was like the whole time I'm just like, oh God, I can't watch. I mean? Like, it's like, Here we go again. Right. But, I think Quick was one of the guys who stood up and spoke in the locker room in that game. And, just having that kind of presence of a guy who has been, on the other side, I think was a really unique perspective to get.
That's awesome. No, that makes a lot of sense. So I guess personally, are you a Rangers fan? Like, did you grow up? Okay,
yeah,
got it. So from what I understand, and I've started to follow hockey pretty closely now that I started this. But I personally grew up a Mets, Jets, Knicks fan. Like those were my three teams.
Mm-hmm. So you're where are you from? You must be from like Belmore or Merrick or something.
Long Island. I'm from Dix Hills.
Okay. All right.
And you're from?
I'm from Sasset.
Okay, so it's close.
Yeah.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, I was a fan of those teams, and obviously, you probably know that none of those teams have won a championship. But as a Rangers fan, I think the last championship was 94, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you probably don't remember that.
Wasn't born.
It wasn't born. Okay, there you go. So my question to you is, what keeps you, I guess, sane and motivated, just like the same way I'm sane and sticking through it with the Jets, the Mets, and the Knicks? Like, what keeps you going each and every season to say, I'm going to show up as a Rangers fan and try to do keep my fandom alive here?
You know what? I said this on a show like 2 years ago, and it was probably the stupidest thing I ever said, but I kind of stick by it. I, just like you, Justin, like I have never seen, I'm really just like a Rangers and Knicks fan. Like, okay. I don't really, I'll watch the Yankees and the Mets. I'll watch the Giants and the Jets. Like if they're in the, I'll hop on a bandwagon. I'm not afraid to admit that. Like I'm not a diehard football or baseball fan. So I just want to see New York win. But I have not seen like my favorite teams win a championship. Like you said, the Rangers and Knicks. So when that day does come, like how will life get better than that? Like I'm almost afraid. I'm almost afraid for that, like that is the peak of my life. Like my existence is around the New York Rangers. So if they win the cup when I'm 30 years old, it's like, what the hell am I going to do the next 50 years? This is going to be, it's not like they're going to put 2 or 3 in a row together, So I feel like I almost want them to I want them to win a cup. I feel like when I'm 60 years old and just life is peaceful, I could
all grown up and you got retirement coming in and
like the now I could die in peace sign. I don't know if you've seen it. That's like the famous sign from Game 7. I would want that to be my feeling, like if I die tomorrow, it's okay. You know what I mean?
There you go. I honestly, I feel so similar with my teams, and it's like, it's going to happen one day. We just got to stay the course. And I think it's just so interesting that, and you probably see this too, there's just a lot of negative sentiment around, the Jets and the Mets and the Knicks. A lot of people saying, a lot of just bad things online. I mean, how do you kind of tune that energy out as you're doing your own content and keeping your fandom, but also like being professional? And I'm sure you hear a lot in your comment section from fans saying all this negative stuff. I mean, how do you balance that? I'm sure it's pretty tough.
It's honestly, it is the hardest thing, to just constantly read negativity, even if it's not about me, it still like affects the mood. Right. So, but the important thing is, like, I know some people say like, just ignore it. It's whatever. I can't ignore it. I feel like I shouldn't ignore it. Like I always, something I pride myself on is if you follow me and if you fuck with my stuff, like I'm going to show you love back, I'm like if you fuck with me, I fuck with you. Like that's kind of how I operate when it comes to social media. So when I see negative comments, I try to address them. Like, of course, I think it's important to have communication with the people that appreciate and follow your work. Which again, like, brings pressure on myself. Like I feel like sometimes if I don't get the right question in a post game, if I'm interviewing a player and this is not what fans want to hear, I like carry that with myself. And I'm like, damn, like I didn't, the Rangers didn't play, like they didn't play well, but neither did I didn't do my job well either. It's a good thing, I think, to like keep yourself in check and keep yourself accountable in this industry, because that's all fans want is accountability for players and I guess for media members. But at times, like, last night, for example, the Rangers lost 8-4, and it was just like a horror. It was 6-0 in the second period, and I was like, again, I just told you, Justin, like I'm living my dream job, and I was sitting there at MSG last night, thankful that I get to do that for a job, but also saying, get me out of here. Like, this is miserable, So those nights are tough, but it affects my mood for sure. But I think that's why we're in it.
Now, in terms of the Rangers, I know last night, like you said, it was not a good one. I saw that they lost pretty badly. What do you have to say to Rangers fans? Being as someone that's in that locker room, day in and day out, like what do you have to say to fans to keep fans excited about the future? Like what optimism do you have for this team, if any, in the short to near term future?
None right now, to be honest. I got. You know what? I tried to be optimistic. Yeah. I really tried with this group right now, but they're missing two of their best players. Like, the odds are stacked against them. Like, it's just not going well. And on home ice, they are, I believe, they have 5 wins in 22 games. So I don't know what the percentage is of that, but it's around 20%. So if you're spending $100 to $200 on tickets and you're going to MSG, you have a 20% chance of leaving happy. Wow. And that's not really good, right? You kind of want that to be 50 or 60. So when it comes to optimism with the fans, I've ran out. And it's funny. It's funny because, like, I always try to find the positives, and some fans have actually been calling me Mr. Brightside lately, which I take as a compliment. But yeah, it's been rough. It's been rough.
Yeah, but you'd say, though, as rough as it's been, you would never one day wake up and say, I'm going to be an Islanders fan today because now they're playing so well. Like, there's I could bet there's not one stitch in you. And it's the same way I feel like I would never become a Yankees fan. Otherwise, it's just, it would never happen of like, I would change from being a Mets to a Yankee. Do you feel the same way about, the Rangers and Islanders, like, or maybe you have a different sentiment towards it?
Well, I mean, like the kid in me hates the Islanders, like always, but the Devils more though. Yeah, Devils more, just because growing up it was always Rangers Devils. It wasn't really Rangers Islanders. But obviously, as you get to meet players and talk to players and form friendships with players, like, there are a lot of guys on the Islanders and the Devils that I genuinely just like and want to root for. So in that sense, it's like, I want to see if it were up to me, like Jack Hughes and Matt Barzal and Matthew Schaefer, those guys would put up 100 points and the team would lose every game. Yeah. That's kind of what I would root for. But to be honest, like, I enjoy watching the Islanders play. Like, I am turning the Islanders on. I'm watching the games and I'm having fun watching them because I appreciate good hockey. Absolutely. And I could admit that. I'm happy to admit that. I'm not saying I'm rooting for them to win the games, but I enjoy watching them. So, I would never become a fan, but like, I like watching good hockey.
You're a hockey fan. Exactly. That makes sense. So listen, what does we're coming up towards the end here, just a couple more questions. Mm-hmm. What does forever next year mean to you? What does that mean in terms of, professionally or personally? When you hear those words, what does that mean to you?
Oh man. That's a great question. What does forever next year mean to you? I don't know. I guess my first initial instinct is that as good as it gets or as bad as it gets, you'll always have them, I guess it's the one thing in life that maybe is consistent. Like, no matter what, you'll always have a Ranger game to watch, whether it kills you or whether it makes your night. They'll always be there. So I guess that's a good way to look at it.
For as long as you're right. Like, for as long as we're alive, there's always going to be that next year, that next season.
And to your earlier point, though, Justin, like, let's say the Rangers won the cup like this year. Next year, there'd still be things to complain about. Exactly. So like, I guess it is just like a rinse and repeat kind of thing.
There you go.
Good or bad,
Good or bad, exactly.
But man, does it suck when it's bad?
But
sucks.
You know what? You got to figure that you stick through the lows. It'll make you appreciate the highs that much better.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, listen, if you had to leave a lasting words, last kind of wisdom for the viewers and the
Mm-hmm.
Forever Next Year Nation community, what's your final piece of wisdom for
my final piece of wisdom? You know what? If your team, whether you root for the Islanders, Rangers, Knicks, Nets, Jets, Giants, Yankees, Mets, if they disappoint you, but they go on a good run, like let's say the Yankees World Series run the other year, like you got to take that for what it is and enjoy it. There are so many teams outside of this state that are like so irrelevant and across every league. I think of some fan bases that have never seen their team even like win a playoff series.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, we don't have it that bad,
Yep.
But the heartbreak year after year that you get with some of these teams, at least they gave you the sense of belief, right? Because I think there are other teams that don't even get that. And that's the worst thing as a fan that you can possibly have is no belief or hope in anything. Like that to me is a fan nightmare. So I guess that's what I would say.
Absolutely. No, you gotta embrace the positives and the accomplishments that some of these teams have had. You're definitely right. Well, thanks very much, Johnny.
Thank you.
For joining the pod.
What does Forever Next Year mean to you?
Yeah, you're flipping.
I'm curious. I'm curious. Like where the inspiration and everything comes from. I'm curious. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Forever Next Year started to me as a way to express my fandom in across all teams. So, I've never seen the Nets, the Jets, the Knicks win a championship, and it truly the only way to describe it, it just feels like forever that I'll get to see one of my teams win.
Yeah, that Mets run was unreal, though. Was that last year?
Yeah, 2024. Yeah,
24. Yeah, that was an unreal run. I was watching almost every Nets game, and I don't like baseball.
Right? No, it was crazy, but
yeah.
So it has that meaning to me, but also it's come to the concept has grown to say, for me, I'll always be a fan of this team forever. And although it's frustrating, it's sometimes heartbreaking, and I lose hope. That I'm always going to stick with these teams. I don't care how delusional that sounds. I don't care how crazy going to MetLife every season is for a Jets game. I mean, like that's what Forever Next Year means to me. It's showing up for your teams every season and staying true to form, and if that means losing, if that means winning, whatever it is. And listen, like you said, even when you win, you've got to show up next season. So people at the top of their game, Tom Brady, Shaquille O'Neal, they've accomplished everything in sports, but guess what? They still go on commercials. They still have business ventures because they want to embrace that next year mindset. So Forever Next Year has become an ideology for me as a sports fan, but also professionally and personally.